Welcome, everyone. TRF Tuesday is the Trauma Research Foundation's mini workshop series from Bright Voices in body-based healing practices. We do this every week. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to the TRF channel. It helps YouTube know that you find this content valuable, and then they'll spread the word by showing it to more people. We're going to take questions from the audience at the end of the session, so just drop them in the chat. And welcome. We're so happy to have you at today's series of Embodying Hope. Today's session is Cultivating Embodied Hope. Welcome. Welcome, Staci Haines. Staci is the author of The Politics of Trauma, Somatics, Healing, and Social Justice. She has been experimenting at the intersections of personal and social transformation for the last 30 years through the work of somatics, trauma healing, embodied leadership, and transformative justice. She is the founder of Generation 5 and the co-founder of Generative Somatics. Staci, we're really happy to have you. Take it away.
Thanks, Mary. Happy to be back. So welcome to anyone who's been here for our other two practice sessions. I really hold these as a practice session. It's like, okay, what is embodied hope? And then let's explore it from a number of different somatic angles. If you've been here before, today we're going to dive in a little bit more into what we call in this work creating declarations, which is like creating a statement about the future, a vision for the future that we want to practice and transform toward and take action toward. The last two sessions, if you weren't here, we really explored kind of some different ways of knowing and really asking the question, what is hope? What is embodied hope? And what is hope at different scales, right? From very personal to collective to systemic and for the planet, right? What is hope? And especially in a time that is, in times that are so trying, right? The challenges are very large that we're in and that we face. So I'm going to start with a couple of practices that are continuing to build on what we've been doing. If you're brand new, just dive in with us. And then we'll sit down again and do some reflection and conversation about declarations. And then I'll take some questions at the end. All right. So I'm going to stand up. We're going to do a rowing practice and then what's called an extension practice. If it's more comfortable for you to do the practices seated, that's fine. If that's what works for you and your body today, you can do that. And all be standing. All right. Okay. So inside of every somatic practice or embodied practice is a principle that we're looking to embody. And what I mean by that is, we change through a repeated practice over time. And so what are we practicing? And is what we're practicing really aligned with what we hope for? Is it aligned with what we yearn for, right? Or what we're committed to? So we've been doing a centering practice, which is, really balancing and filling out into our whole somas, our whole bodies. But I'm going to take us back into a rowing practice. And the intention or the principle inside of this rowing practice is how do we take centering into action? How do we be in action, connected to ourselves and what we care about, and then also navigate change? So let me just show you the movement. I'm going to bring my camera down a little bit. We're going to put one foot in front of the other. You can do this if you're seated as well. And from center, which is just a couple of inches below your belly button as we've been practicing, we'll initiate movement from our center and move forward, and then move back. You can try this on with me, forward and back. And then we'll lift and we'll grab a set of imaginary oars as if all of us are rowing together and pull those oars right back to center. From center to center. From center to center, okay? And then at some point I'll say, and change. And again, if you're seated, you can just shift your feet. If you're standing, I'll say, and change. And that means then bring your back leg forward and your front leg back while we continue to row. Okay, while we continue to row. All right, that's where we're going. Let's take just a short moment and center ourselves. The first piece of centering is drop in from your thinking self down into your sensing and your feeling self. And that means noticing temperatures inside of you, noticing places you're more relaxed or have more tension. And then inside of your soma, just noticing movement, heart beating, last meal digesting. And you can drop a hand down the center. It's like your thumb and your belly button and the rest of your hand here. And then we're going to center in 4 directions. Let's first center in length, settling down and lengthening up at the same time. And do this through the senses, right? Not just a concept of length, but centering and balancing in length. We also call that centering in dignity. And we want to center and balance in width, a good balance on your feet or your hips, widening out. Yeah, centering in width, also centering in interdependence. And we want to center in depth, backside, inside, front side. So we're not pulling back and we're not pushing forward. Just filling out your depth more front and back and balancing that. And then the last thing we want to center in is really the question we've been in over this month so far is, what is it you hope for? What is it that you care about? Yeah. Center inside of that. Just bring that to body, bring that to heart. What matters to you? And let what you care about also fill out your nervous system. And then let's go left foot forward and let's take this all into action. So we're practicing length with depth. And move forward, weight on the front foot or coming forward in your seat, grab that oar and let's row. Let the weight transfer down to your lower body. And we're practicing, you can imagine we're rowing toward what it is we care about. Yeah, we're practicing being centered while we're also in action. And change, back leg forward, front leg back. And change. We want to practice relaxing in the change, right? We're training something new into our somas. And change. And change every time. Centering. In action. Relaxing into change. This is no small feat, really, right? But relevant to our everyday lives and really relevant to considering what future we want, what future we hope for. And hold. And then just take a moment and sense and feel yourself. You can notice what's happening with your breath. Notice where there's more movement than maybe when we started, where there might be a temperature shift. And even with that increased aliveness, increased juice running through ourselves, just very gently let yourself center again. Can you organize in length and in width and in depth, allowing all that aliveness, and then connecting again to what you care about. All right, we're going to do a new practice called extension. And again, what's the principle we're looking to embody inside of this? And you can think of this as, how do we put our attention toward what brings us hope? How do we extend our attention, our energy, our actions toward the things that are important to us? So I just want to show you the form of the practice. And again, you can do this standing, or you could also do it seated. And with centering as the baseline, What we want to do is with relaxed shoulders, extend like we're extending through the center of the hands, extending, right, our attention, actions, energy toward what's important to us. Yeah. One foot in front of the other just gives us a little bit wider base, or again, you can just be seated into your hips and extending. And I want to show us a little bit of contrast when we get to practice this in person with each other. It's a partner practice, but we can do it with ourselves. What it's like when we're extending toward what we care about, but we receive pressure, conflict happens. Something in your plan broke down or didn't work out. Right? There's lots of different pressures that we have when we're actually going toward and moving toward what we care about. So what I'd like you to imagine, and let's try this on together so we can feel it from the inside out. But I really want you to bring to heart here, what is something important that you care about creating in the future? Right? And it might be something concrete, like it's very important for you to be a part of a practice community that really cares about, let's say, the bioregion that you live in, right? Or maybe it's very important to you to bring a certain quality of healing or transformation into your extended family. Or maybe what's important to you is you're building this organization or this project, and that's where your attention is and the difference that can make in the world. Yeah. So whatever it is for you, I want you to imagine that we're first, right, extending toward that, right? It's out in the future. We're extending our attention and energy toward it. But then what happens is a certain quality of challenge or pressure or conflict comes. And if we were doing this in partners, a partner would be adding pressure back, right? Back on your arm. But I just want to invite us to try this on together. So what is it like in your body if under pressure, pressure's coming, if under pressure you collapse? You know, like we're extending to what we care about and there's a certain amount of pressure, and then under pressure, we collapse. Just try that on in your body a couple of times. What's it like to collapse under pressure? And is that familiar to you or not? You can even imagine a real pressure that you're dealing with, a real person, right? A real pressure. Now let's try something else again, just for contrast. That we're moving toward what we care about. We're extending toward what we care about. But this time under pressure, right? That imagined pressure, we're going to fight that pressure, right? It's almost like push back, fight it. And just notice how you do that inside of your own body. If you're going to resist pressure, right? Usually we push forward, we resist against it. Feel what happens in your shoulders. Feel if you're over your own center or not. And then just let that go. And notice again, is that familiar inside of your soma? We all have what we call conditioned tendencies, right? We all have ways that we've adapted to those core needs of safety, belonging, and dignity. And when we care about something and some pressure gets turned up, we often move into those more reactive stances, right? Or have those reactions come out of our bodies. So by trying on collapsing and trying on fighting against, it's just a way to try on some of those pieces on purpose, in contrast to a centered extension. So one more time, let's centered extension. One foot in front of the other or seated down onto your seat, dropping your attention to center. And taking a moment, because you can do this at home, right? Taking that moment to center in length, right? And dignity, to center in width, connection, center in depth, right? All this history, ancestors, experience at our backs. Your own depth. And then from center, let that energy come out extending, right? We're over a solid base, a solid ground, and we're extending our attention, our care, our action toward what it is that we care about, toward hope, right? What it is we hope for. And just take a minute and imagine again a pressure coming, right? It might be a real one or imagined. And with that pressure, just using your somatic imagination, see if you can just relax and keep extending under pressure. That difficult conversation, that unsolved problem, can you recenter and extend and continue to relax under pressure? You know, maybe even in the big picture, the pressure could help us center. All right. All right, I'm going to sit back down. Please sit back down with me. Centering, rowing, extension. These are all different practices that are ways we can both, how do I want to say it, cultivate more embodiment, but also they're very concrete practices that we can bring into relationship with hope or bring into relationship with what we care about to help us really cultivate that hope isn't just an idea, it's something we embody, it's something we take action toward, it's something we have in our attention over and over again. All right, so I want to invite us to play around with one more thing here, and I will do some Q&As. One of the first things we ask inside of this approach to somatic transformation is really what we've been exploring. What do you care about? What do you hope for? What do you long for? And then what we do is we actually craft that into what we call a declaration. And really, it's a statement that declares, right, intends a future that we're wanting to build towards. So that's really what a declaration is. It's this imagination, a vision for the future that we're wanting to build. What makes it a little bit different than an intention is we turn it into a statement, and a statement we can actually practice with. So the statement we use, even though it's not really grammatically correct in English, is I am a commitment to. I am a commitment to. And why we use that phrase is to not be committed to something outside of ourselves, which of course we are, but to really become a living commitment to what it is that we care about. And inside of that, I'll just share two of my declarations with you. So this declaration I'm about to share, I've had maybe for 15 years now, and it might be one of those declarations that is lifelong, but I am a commitment to bringing the transformative power of somatics to serve social and climate justice. That's my declaration, that's my commitment. It has looked different ways at different times, but that declaration is one I come back to over and over again of how do we have this deep embodied transformation, this technology serve the well-being of all life on the planet, right? Social justice and climate justice. And in practicing that inside my centering over and over again, it's something I'm practice being and embodying and growing into, right? The next level of. As I've been thinking a lot about hope in our times, because they are struggling times, at least from my view. People, governments, economy, and planet is not the easiest time. And we have a lot of change to co-create with each other. But another one of the declarations that I've been working with is I'm a commitment to letting the soft animal of my body love what I love. And that's much more of a personal declaration. And my other was a little bit more of a social change or a broader vision declaration. We can have more than one. We probably don't want to have 18. It's just too many to track. But that declaration of letting the soft animal of my body love what I love is a deep reminder inside of my own system that even amidst the challenges that we're in, that softening, that opening, that listening for what I care about, what I love, what is nourishing, is a much more, how do I want to say, powerful place to come from than being up and stressed and worried about our collective future. So that's one of the reasons I practice that. So if you have something to write on, and I just have a couple minutes here, but I want to keep inviting folks to ask yourself and reflect upon, what do I care about, right? What future would I love to see in 5 years or in 50 years? What do I personally long for? Or what is it that I want or long for either my community or my bioregion or the land, right? We do not need to know how to fulfill or be our declarations when we first make them. It's almost like these declarations, our declarations become a beacon that guides us into the change that will let us be them, have them, help create them. So I want to take our hope a little bit into declaration zone, into action, which we'll talk more about next time, as we've been exploring it these last 2 weeks. So I'm going to pause. I know we just have a few moments for questions here. And Mary, you want to help me out with any of the questions? Or
Absolutely.
Sure. I'd also just invite people to, put their answer to the commitment question in the chat too, and we can take a look at what some of them are if they're up for it. Someone was asking about the exercise, if they can use a wall while they're doing
the extension.
Yeah.
Exercise 2. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. I think for the pressure, like if you imagine the pressure and collapsing or the pressure and fighting, that's an awesome way to use the wall. I think once you're doing centered extension, if there's any place where you have a bit of a horizon, it's so great to imagine or just to actually be able to see, like I'm extending 10 feet in front of me, or I'm extending over the next hill, right? That we're really practicing extending our attention and even our sense of time over time, especially to hold bigger visions. But I love the wall idea on the first 2 parts of it.
So we have some of these coming in here. I don't see any questions yet, but we have some of these commitments coming, helping families repair the relationships with one another.
I love these commitments that are coming in. I'm a commitment to trauma recovery for my children and for all trauma survivors. Very powerful. And like when I listen to that, or when I read that, Bobby, I'm like, to me, that sounds like a lifelong declaration, right? Like a purpose and a guide that'll look different over time. Yeah.
Katarina's asking, is the pressure about defining boundaries before COVID?
The pressure inside of the extension practice is really about how do we stay centered, relaxed, and extended toward what we care about, even in the predictable pressures of life and leadership. So whenever we have a vision, there's going to be things that get in the way of us having that vision. And instead of getting upset about that, which we can, there's lots of things to get upset about, but how do we keep training our somas to go, of course, there's going to be pressure. Of course, there's going to be breakdowns. Can I pre-train myself to recenter under pressure and to recenter in breakdowns instead of move into reactivity?
There's a question coming in from Lori here. It says, as someone with physical disabilities, how could one adapt the sense of reaching or resisting, rowing, when the body can't do these things as demonstrated?
Perfect. Thank you so much for asking that. So really, our whole body's beings can extend, right? We just use the arms because it's one easy way to teach it. But even sitting here, extending our attention to the screen, extending our attention to each other, right? It's kind of like widening out our own field of attention. And you can do that really from any position. Just extend it toward what it is you want, what do you care about. With rowing, sorry, I don't know what your disabilities are. When I have worked with folks who are in chairs, um, some folks, especially with electric chairs, will just move themselves forward and back or forward and around in a way that works for their system to represent change. That's what we're looking at doing inside of rowing, is how do I stay centered and then be in a representation of centered and change. Yeah, so these are just some forms. The forms do not need to look like this. It's really the principle we're going for. So thanks so much for asking that.
That's all the questions I see. Give folks another minute or so.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to add something about declarations. These questions that I posed, and I'm sure you all have others, but you know, what am I longing for? What do I want to see in 5 years, 50 years? The first thing we want to write are these declarations of like, I am a commitment to, right? Gen 5, which is the organization that I founded that's really using transformative justice to address child sexual abuse. The declaration that came from is that I'm really a commitment to ending the sexual abuse of children. And a friend of mine said, by when? And I was like, well, I think we're going to need some time. So I'm going to say 5 generations. And then that just became this centered declaration that then we built the organization together out of. Yeah. And all the different pieces of work we did. So really encouraging people to go for it and crafting, like, what is your longing and vision and what brings you hope? And then the piece we do after that is, how will we know when we get there? Right? How will we know when we get there? And you can think about, like, what actions will I be taking that maybe I don't take now? Or how will I be connected to people that maybe I'm not connected to them now? Or what feedback will people give me that's different than what they give me now? Right? These are questions about how will we know when we get there, to keep grounding it, bringing it to the ground and into action. Yeah. All right, Mary and Pat, over to you all. I know we're out of time.
Well, this was another great, beautiful session. Thank you so much, Staci. We thank you for being here. We thank our audience for being here. We look forward to seeing you all next week. And behind the scenes are Pat Murray, Connor McCann, and I'm Mary Frangie with Trauma Research Foundation. If you'd like to find any of these sessions, you can go to the TRF website and look for our TRF Tuesday library. But thanks everyone for being here. Thanks so much, Staci.
Thanks for practicing together, everyone.
Yeah, it was
Thank
awesome.
you.
We'll see you all